This is Gemara Baba Basra Daf Pei Test and all the learning for this month. The month of Elul has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf as a schos alias neshama of Aster Rizal Basra מאיר. B'siyata d'shmaya, the learning the entire Chabura should bring an incredible alias neshama to Aster Rizal Basra מאיר. We're holding on the top of Pei Test Amid Aleph. 3 lines from the top as we delve into the final part of the Mishnah, which deals with Makom Shenagu Lamoid Bigasa. The Gemara begins with a siman, which again is an incredible indicator of the power of Siman, and we hope very soon to start inculcating the wonderful Zichru Simanim into our Shiurim. Please stay tuned, or if you're looking for an incredible experience, just go to zichru.com and you'll see for yourself. But hopefully very soon, we will be having that part of our shiur. But for now, let's delve into the Gemara. Tana Rabbana minayin shein moichakin b'makom shegoydshem ve'goydshem b'makom shemoichakin. How do you know that you're not allowed? If they normally measure in a heaped fashion, you can't level, and they normally measure in a level fashion, you can't measure heap. Ta'amalaymar says the basik efa shalima, a perfect measure. How do we know How do we know that if someone says, I'm going to make it level, in a place where they normally heap it, however, but I'll reduce the value, or I'm going to give them a heaping measurement in a place that normally they give a level measurement, and I'll pay more. How do we know that we don't listen to him? Talmud Laimar again, Ifa Shlema Vitzedek Yeh Lecha. A perfect measure and just measure you should still have. That is Brisa number 1, beginning by dealing the extra words of Tzedek Yeh Lecha, teaches us that even if one preempts and says that no, I'm going to pay extra, I'm going to deduct from the value, we do not listen to him. Continues the Gemara, how do we know you're not allowed to balance in a place where they normally tilted in different ways of measuring with a scale? How do we know if someone says, no, I'm going to make it level in a place they normally tilted, but don't worry, I'll detract from the value, or as we saw in the first brisa, Evin Shleima Vitzedek. 2 different brises teaching very similar dinim. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Surah Meisura Lo Yeh Lecha Bebeischa. Says the pasuk you should not have in your house. The pasuk referring to the false weights, etc. Matam. Says the Gemara, the way that you learn Tarsha in this pasuk is what's the reason you shouldn't have it in your house? Misham Eifa ve'Eifa. Because a measure and a measure. Lo Yeh Lecha Bekischa, and you should not have it in your pouch, in your wallet. Matam Misham Evan ve'Evan. Aval, however, Evan Shleima v'Tzedek Yeh Lecha. If Shleima v'Tzedek Yeh Lecha, different. The Rav Yehuda Meisura comes to teach us how we could see within the pasuk itself these additional dinim. Tana Rabbana, and then a third brisa says the pasuk Yeh Lecha, you should have for yourself. You should have for yourself the perfect weight. What do we learn out from here? That we appoint a gardamin, attendants, people who are in charge of the weights and measures, but we do not do that for prices. Of course, Klal Yisrael used to have their own government and their own enforcement system. So the house of the Nasi, they went and they made enforcements both on the midos and on the prices. Amrle Shmuel Karna. Shmuel came along and he said to Karna, Paik Tani Lo, go ahead and tell them that what? Ma midin agardimin limidos, but Vein midin agardimin l'sharim. Nafak, he went out, Darish Lo, and he learned Ma midin agardimin bein limidos and bein l'sharim. So Amar Le, when he came back, Shmuel said to him, what's going on? My Shimcha, Karna. So my name is Karna. Tepek le karna beine. Shmuel was quite upset. He said, a karna, the horn, should grow in your eye. Nafik le karna beine. And of course, the eyes of the tzaddik Shmuel came to fruition, and a horn, a pimple of sorts, went into his eye as he did not listen to the words of the Heilige Shmuel. But explains the Gemara, why did he do it? Shmuel told him clearly what to say. Explains the Gemara of Iu Kaman Savar. Whom did Karna hold like? Yad Amar Ravi Barachamar of Yitzchak Marmidim Agardim Milamid has been the Shar Mimnei Haramayin, because of those who tried to trick. So 3 different brisa is teaching the critical importance of proper, perfect, and appropriate measurements. Tana Rabban in a 4th brisa. If someone wants to buy a litra worth of items, shekel a litra. Weigh him with a litra. Chati litra, shekel a chati litra. Revi a litra, shekel a revi a litra. Says the Gemara. Michael Mashmalon, what's the chiddush? Says the Gemara that this is the bottom point, meaning the smallest denomination that one could purchase is from a quarter liter and on. We don't allow smaller than that. Tana Rabban, another race. Shleisha Rivi litra, about 14 lines to the bottom. The first line is Mevakesh. If someone, a person wants to buy 3/4 of a liter, he should not say, wait for me 3/4 of a liter, adchas achas. Wait for me 3/4 liters one at a time. Ella shakal litra. Rather, the person should put down 1 liter, mediach ravia litra in my basar, and put a 1/4 liter with the meat. Should weigh it directly, not in an indirect manner. Tana Rabbanan, a 6th brisa. And of course, these things are easier to understand in the world of buying and selling that was done with weights, like was common back then. But Tana Rabbanan, Eser litrin. Someone wants to buy 10 liters. Should not say, wait for me 1 liter at a time, and tell it to scale, which is a method I used to do each time to make sure that it was appropriate. So don't do it each and every time. Ella, rather, rather you should weigh all 10 liters at once, and in 1 tilt for all of them. Continues the Gemara, the nefesh of the Mizrayim, the fulcrum, Tuliya ba'avir gimel tfachim, should be suspended in the air at least 3 tfachim. They used to have the scales hanging from the ceiling. The kana umisna shalom shneimas tfachim, and the beam and the string should be 12 tfachim in length. Shal tzmarim v'shal zagogim, but the weights of a wool merchant and a glass merchant, those are tluya ba'avir only shnei tfachim. The scale of a chemini, a store owner, or of a balabais, 3 different types of scales. Shaltortani, continues the Gemara, 2 lines to the bottom. A smith, someone who's dealing with precious metals, that is Tuliya ba'avir shalosh ba'is. I don't know how long the string should be from it. So it says the Gemara, 1 second. We had 1 brisa dealing with the wool, we had 1 brisa dealing with the balbais and the chamini, we had 1 brisa dealing with the precious metals. But kamaisa, the first brisa, it didn't say what that person is selling. So says the Gemara, what is the sale of the first price referring to? And we turn over to Pei Testament Beis, and says the Gemara, Amar Rababa, Digrumi. Says Rababa, it's referring to iron smelters. That is Brisa number 1. Amar Ramani Bar Patish, in a similar vein, Amru Lini Isurim, just like we find with regard to Isurim, that you're not allowed to measure without these appropriate mates. So too is the din according to Tomo. What does that mean? What that means, says the Rashbam, We all know that the din of tumah v'tayra is when you have a complete kli. So says Ramani Bar Batish, if you don't make these scales in the appropriate fashion, now it's usher to use them. So therefore, what? They're not going to be mekabel tumah. Says the Gemara 3 lines down. What's the chiddush? Anina? We learned in the Mishnah. Chot mazdaim zachem nishabal labatim tevach kana Mr. Shalah. Tevach likana in the Mishnah. So it's already a Mishnah. So why do we have to repeat it? A Mishnah in Kalim. Answers Gemara Tzrichalei Deloi Tinan. We needed Ramani Bar Patish needed to teach us this because we did not learn this detail in the Mishnah to not teach us that the dinim of Tumah V'Tayra are the same. Tanu Rabbanon. Another brisa discussing weights. One should not make weights of bats, of tin, of avor, of lead, of eloi, now other types of metals. Should make it of stone and of glass. Tana Rabbanan, more details of weights. You're not allowed to make the level of a gourd kal because it's light. Nor of metal because it's heavy. You make it out of olive, or you make it out of a walnut, or a certain type of wood. Tana Rabbanan continues the Gemara with a 10th brace about weights. Says the Raisa, you cannot make the level one side of it wide, one side of it narrow. Do not level and measure all at once. Turns out to be advantageous for the buyer and not for the seller. Similarly, you should not level it out bit by bit. Why? Because the opposite. On all these things teaches Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai oili im amar oili. Says Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, woe is to me if I say it's aser oili im lo amar. Woe is to me if I don't say it. So Yochanan ben Zakkai has been moaning that he feels he's caught in a difficult place. It's not good if he says these dinim. It's not good if he doesn't say these dinim. Why? Amar, what's the problem if he says over these dinim? Shamiyam du Ramayim. So the Ramayim will learn, hey, wait, if I do it this way, it's better for the buyer, it's better for the seller, and he doesn't want to teach them that. V'hem lo yamar, Shamiyam Ramayim, ein tamid chachamim b'kiyin, b'maisi yadeinu. Which is, of course, is always a difficult balance, that the more the Talmid Chachamim show that they know everything, which of course they do, then the Ramayim could utilize the details in a way that benefits them. But if the Talmid Chachamim don't teach it, then the Ramayim say, they don't know what we're talking about. A difficult dilemma. So now ask the Gemara, based upon this quandary of Yochanan ben Zakkai, Yibayilu Amra Eloi Amra. So says the Gemara, okay, Lamaisa, did Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai give the shir or not? Amar Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak Amra Umehai Kra Amra. Lamaisa, he said over these dinim, and he based on this pasuk, Yisharim Darchei Hashem V'Sadikim Yalchu Bam Upaishim Yikashlu Bam. A very famous pasuk that tzaddikim will go with it, and the wicked will stumble with it any time. We give over a kula, we give over a dispensation. There's always that fear. Peshayim yikashlu bam. But of course, we have to be careful. Yisharim darchei Hashem. We have to teach it appropriately and straight, and hopefully people will not abuse the knowledge. Tanu Rabbanan continues the Gemara. Lo yisasu avel b'mishpat b'midah b'mishkal b'misura. Says the pasuk, you should not do wrong in judgment, length, weight, liquids. B'midah. What does that mean? Zu mididas karka. It's referring to measuring land. What does that mean? You shouldn't use the same rope. Sometimes in the winter and sometimes in the summer because it stretches different lengths. B'mishkal. What does it mean in weights? You should not hide your weights in salt. Why? Because it could cause their weights to their weight to change. Bamisura, you should not allow it to become frothy when you measure out liquids. v'kal v'chaymer. It says the Gemara, his last day we learn a kal v'chaymer. Oma misura, when it comes to misura, she echad mishleishim v'shishim bilog. What difference does the froth on the liquid make? Says the Gemara, it's a 36 of a log, and yet kpida love Torah. Kal v'chaymer lehin v'chatzi and v'shishim and revius and v'log v'chatzi log revius alog v'chatzi tuman v'ochla, and all these different measurements. Of course, the Torah is makbid upon. If we care about such small and almost insignificant measurements, how much more so for everything else? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Aser la'adam sheisha mida chasera yisera b'tach beisa. One is not allowed to have an undersized weight, an oversized weight in his house. Even if it's used as a urinal, you're not allowed to keep such a measure in your house. Even if you use it for a non-measuring purpose, use it as a chamber pot, you can't have it in your house. Says Rav Papa is only in a place where they don't seal to the government official weights. If it's a place where they put a seal on what's used as a weight, then we don't have to worry, because if there's no seal, people won't come to use it. And it furthermore qualifies Rav Papa Basra Chasimi Nami Layamaran Ella Delay Mahandisi. It's only in a place if there's no spot checks. If the spot checks on the weights, we don't have to be concerned. But says the Gemara, this last day in the 6 lines to the bottom of Elohi Yitzachur Zimni the Mikri bin Hashmashais. Could be if you keep an inaccurate and improper weight in your house. Could be to be Erev Shabbos or Mikri v'Shakal. You're going to go and you're going to use that weight. Therefore, says the Gemara, the spot checking is not necessarily enough. You should not keep these weights in your house. Tanam Yehochia writes this: Lo yisha adam midach chaser yiseir b'toch beisai v'afilu avid shal meir raglayim. Avlo oises sa tarka v'chati v'kav v'chati kav v'orev v'tuma v'chati tuman v'ochla. All the different weights as we turn over to Sadi Amid Aleph. Says the Gemara v'kami ochla echam chamishim b'revia. A brisa proving that which we just said. How careful we have to be to not keep any bit of an inappropriate measure lying around. Of course, the Gemara is concluding that if there are governmental seals affixed, then it's not as much of a concern. But spot checks do not suffice. I'll pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmaya.